George, haven't seen you for a few weeks, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and we have an excellent topic that Bob and I have firsthand experience in.
Yeah, let me just tell you how this topic came about before I let George go to town on it, because this is right up his wheelhouse, trust me. My grass was growing like crazy, overgrown, and I had to get out and cut it. I have a push mower that's powered by Bob. It's not one of those propelled mowers. So it's all hand pushed, back pushed. And then I usually weed whack, do the cutting in, then take the walk around mower and cut in around after I do the weed whacking. And then I start up the ride on mower to do all the stuff in between. Well, the battery was dead.
Oh no!
So this body took on all of that extra activity, which ended up close to 20,000 steps just cutting the grass. But needless to say, what did I do to myself, George?
Well, it's amazing because I'm going to add to my personal experience to that. So, because of the way the weather's been, it's been raining a lot, and then we had a dry spell, and then all of a sudden it rained a whole lot again. I've had more trees fall.
Oh no!
And trees don't chainsaw themselves.
No, they
You
don't.
actually have to physically chainsaw the tree. And the problem with that is, and in my mind, and I'm sure like in Bob's mind, we thought, well, we're going to the gym, we're exercising, we're watching our diet, we're following, Dr. David Seaman's Deep Flame diet.
Yeah.
I take 30 supplements a day. Bob takes his fair share of supplements. We're doing everything right. We're conditioned. We're prepared for this.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is the underlying condition was underlying deconditioning.
So in other words, certain muscles had been hibernating during the winter, right?
Absolutely. And he nor I, because of that underlying deconditioning, were not prepared to do that. So this past Sunday, I chainsawed 2/3 of two trees and half of another tree, and I was cutting it into wafers so I could burn it in my outdoor fireplace and outdoor fire pit. And I cut for about 2 hours, and then my son-in-law and my youngest daughter and my two granddaughters came up. My other son-in-law and daughter and other two granddaughters didn't come up, but it was 1 o'clock, and I was just done with all that. I was just beat. It really impacted me, and I thought I was conditioned, but apparently not.
Now, you are in good shape.
I am, relatively speaking.
I'm in good shape, so my body tells me keep going forward. It's not aware that those muscles have not awakened yet and need to be reconditioned.
So when they came up about 1 o'clock, I just called it a day, and I turned the Phillies on, watched the Phillies. They won 9-3, and it was so bad. My son and my son-in-law grilled the burgers and made the food.
So instead of going on and on and on, I have to ask you, what can our friends out there do to reawaken their bodies safely, get back involved in exercise without going through the suffering of the pain that we just went through?
Well, and this is what the topic of our video is today. So earlier today, I had a couple of female patients that came in that basically did the same thing. One of the female patients was power washing for 6 hours. That's something my wife would do because women just want to get it done. And they'll just keep doing it, even though they should break it up and do some today, some tomorrow, some the next day.
Right.
They want to get it done. And they're all about performance and getting it done and completing the task at hand. And hence she went through the exact same thing Bob and I did. So she had underlying muscles that had become deconditioned from not doing anything all winter. It gets to be spring, and a lot of people out there have stuff that they haven't done, whether it's power washing, cutting the grass, trimming the shrubs, planting flowers, whatever it is.
And just that bending in a different pattern that you're not used to bending.
Right, and it's the same way. I want to relate this to golfers out there. So the first time you play golf all year after not playing since the fall, or depending on where you live, the last time you played, it's the same type of thing. So what actually happens, you have a group of muscles, even though you're physically fit, you're eating right, you're taking supplements, you don't have inflammation, but you have a group of underlying muscles that you're not using, so they become deconditioned. And when muscles become deconditioned, they shrink. So like in a golf swing, what you're doing when you execute a golf swing, you're putting those muscles into use, into action, and in full extension.
Full extension.
So after you play that first round of golf of the year, you're going to be really sore. So that's what happened. And it takes you a number of rounds of golf until you overcome that.
Right.
So the whole point to everything we just said is whatever you're going to do, whether it's power washing, gardening, planting trees, mowing the lawn, you got to take into consideration the action that you're going to do. Yeah. And then you got to warm up those muscles and recondition them.
That is what I didn't do before pushing that lawnmower. My buddy Eric Nelson reminded me of that when I went to see him, and he started doing some stretching on the legs and the arms for me and working that out. But yeah.
So let's take a page out of Michelle Meyer's book, who presented this research article at the ACA symposium, annual symposium in Vegas a few years ago. And she talked about stretching and warming up and cooling down. And to sum up what she said, is what you really need to do before you do any activity is literally warm up. You need to do something to make yourself sweat, then do whatever activity you're going to do, and then after you're done, that's when you got to stretch to cool down.
Right.
And Michelle Meyer, I want to give a shout out to Michelle. She is the first female ever to be president of the ACA. She is on her second term as president of the ACA, and she's a great chiropractor, a great researcher, an excellent president of the ACA, and she deserves all the awards and acclamations that come with that. Mm-hmm. But she is absolutely correct in what she said in her research that she presented to the ACA Rehab Council. And a lot of people don't do that. And like, let's take Bob, for instance. So he was pushing a mower. So some of the things he could have did to prepare himself for that is he could have did like with TheraBands, like maybe, push-outs. He could have did TheraBand exercises with his arms. He could have started walking more on an elliptical walker or on a treadmill. But the problem with a treadmill is you have heel strike shock. He could have maybe did a recumbent bike. But he could have did things to prepare himself by training his lower body and training his arms, and much the same way I could have did things to train myself for chainsawing that I just simply didn't do.
So the SI and the hip flexors, that was really where I should have put the work in.
Right. And the other point, going to that, what he could have did, let's take Bob again. He could have did whatever he was going to do, running in place, whatever it is, to break out a sweat, then did his mowing, and then afterwards stretched out, and he probably would have had a better outcome.
Yes.
Take some turmeric.
And I don't think that way because my brain and my body are capable of high performance, even though I'm going to be 64 in a couple of months. And I just don't realize that, dude, you're hibernating all winter. Those muscles aren't ready just yet. So this is a great reminder message because people's activity level is first going to kick up now between now and summer.
And this is the time of year I've been seeing it, this past week in my office, and I was seeing it today in my office. And then you think I would learn from past experience, which obviously I did not.
Yeah.
So I hadn't golfed because of my motor vehicle accident in over a year and a half. And I went out and tried to play golf. And the first 3 holes when I played last year, at the end of the year, I was tentative. But then after that, I went for broke, and I was full born into it.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of sore afterward, but you would have think that I would have warmed up and then played and then stretched afterward. I didn't do any of that. And then I played 2 days later, and I did the same thing over again. And when you know it, I had a black and blue mark about this big here, another one here, and the whole side of my left leg. That's your stabilization leg, which is basically ITB syndrome. And what it basically happened is what we just discussed. From not using it, those muscles, it's an underlying hidden deconditioning. And when you're deconditioned, those muscles shrink. And when you execute a golf swing, you're going into full extension. And you're moving those muscles, using muscles you haven't used in a really long period of time, for me, over a year and a half. So you get micro tearing at the tissue level, grade 2, grade 3 strain. And it took a week for me for that to come to the surface and end up the blood to come to the surface and show or demonstrate as black and blue. So the moral to everything we said is, if you're going to do an activity you haven't done in a long time, think about what you can do to warm yourself up and stretch once you do that activity and before you do that activity. But also think about what you can do exercise-wise, whether you're using TheraBands, going out and walking, doing core exercises like I teach a lot of my patients. I've been doing a lot of that lately, on a yoga mat, doing yoga breathing, whatever it is to prepare you that you need to do from an exercise perspective and from a warm-up and cool-down perspective via Michelle Meyer. And you can prevent those types of conditions from occurring.
And again, make sure you're adequately hydrating.
Well, let's take a page, basically from Tom Brady. One of his big things with TB12 is hydration, and what hydration does for you, it not only does it give you flexibility, it gives you pliability, and pliability is the ability to repeat an action over and over again, like the golf swing, mowing the lawn, whatever that might be. Using a gas, trimmer to trim your weeds, or a gas trimmer to trim your bushes, or whatever the case may be. But what pliability gives you is the ability to do that over and over again without injury. So hydration is really, really, really important. And what I like to do, this is a shaker bottle, and I have one just like this, and I use a product called Liquid IV, which I put in there, and it comes in different flavors. Lemon flavor and strawberry are the two I like, but it comes in different flavors. I do one of these a day. So if you're going to do that kind of activity that you haven't done in a long time, you might want to hydrate first and then warm up and then stretch to cool down. And prior to all that, you might want to be doing some exercises where it was, TheraBands or free weights like dumbbells or whatever might be, working out on a recumbent bike, an elliptical walker, to prepare yourself for that activity.
George, the only thing I'm sorry about is we didn't have this conversation before I started up the lawnmower.
Well, it's funny. And even starting up the lawnmower, that's an action that you're not used to doing.
Exactly.
Can cause you problems. But, I made the same mistake, and I'm the one talking about this and have the knowledge directly, that applies to this. But yet, I missed the boat myself and did the same thing to myself.
Going forward, the weather's only going to get nicer. You're going to be more motivated to go out and do the yard work, wash the car, whatever it happens to be. Take George's helpful hints into account, my helpful hints, and hopefully you'll have a better outcome than we had.
Exactly. So my closing thought is, be proactive, put into practical application the concepts we just discussed. And I hope everybody out there, finds this helpful and useful, and you can use this to prevent the types of problems Bob and I encountered. And in closing, I would just like to say, it's been great, Bob. It's been excellent.
Always.
And I want everybody out there to have a great day, and we'll be back with more helpful hints.
Thank you, George. I'm going to end it right there. You be well.